Look out, it is Health and Wellbeing, normally with Peter Mullen. Now, Peter is away on a holiday. He's got it pretty tough, hasn't he?
Very tough.
He has sent in, one of his naturopaths there at Mullen Health, David Martson. Good morning, good afternoon, David. You're ready to take on the big shoes of Peter Mullen?
I certainly am. Yes, I'm going to be talking about the thyroid today, and particularly hypothyroid. So it's a big subject, so we're going to just talk about that.
And David, you've brought with you a very important topic, a very important gland. It is the thyroid. What would you like to go with this today?
Yeah, well, the thyroid is something I'm very passionate about. Thyroid is something that really has a great influence with every single part of the body. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a shape of a butterfly, if you want to look at what it looks like, and it's in the neck region. So it's not very big, but it's very powerful.
So how does it actually affect a lot of other functions?
Well, a lot of people, the biggest thing that I find when a patient comes in is I find fatigue. And this is this unrelenting fatigue. You know, they'll sort of wake up in the morning feeling like they're stuck in mud, you know, with their feet. They feel like they can never get out of that constant sort of feeling, heaviness, brain fog. That's also another thing that a lot of people tend to sort of symptoms that they experience, that brain fog. And also the other thing is that they'll have a coffee, but it doesn't seem to lift them up. So this is this fatigue, this unrelenting fatigue.
And just to be clear, these symptoms that we're starting to talk about now, they are symptoms of an underactive thyroid?
Underactive.
Which is hypothyroidism.
Hypo, yep. So it's the most common thing that I would see in practice is hypo. So it's how you would know whether you had a hypo, and this is just done with a blood test. Okay, so most people who would go to their GP would get a standard testing would be just the thyroid stimulating hormone, which is TSH. That's all they would do. So the range from that is between, depending on the pathology, but it'll be between 0.4 and 4.5. So that's the range. So anywhere in that range, they're judged as okay. Okay. Now, what we tend to look at is, well, if a person is feeling fatigued and tired, not sleeping as well, weight gain, but they're between, maybe about 1, or even a bit higher, maybe 2 to 4, that we would say that is probably more subclinical hypothyroidism. So it's starting to get where that thyroid is starting to slow down.
So how does weight gain form a part of this process as well, since you brought that up, David?
Well, you see, weight gain, the thyroid is biggest action is metabolism. It's a heat. It's for thermogenesis, burning fat, and so if that's slowing down, hence we're going to find that we get weight gain. So most people, no matter how much they exercise, eat, all that sort of stuff, it just won't be removed. They cannot remove it. So they find that very frustrating. So not only do they have lack of energy, but they have weight gain. And so they go to their GP, and the GP says everything's fine.
But clearly it's not.
But clearly it's not. So we tend to sort of think, okay, well, what else is happening? And I would say that in most cases, if you don't look at the reasons for why the thyroid isn't working, you're not going to get it fixed. So it's very important to look at avenues like stress, anxiety, worry, these sort of things, because these are the drivers from the adrenal area that actually affect the thyroid.
So those external factors like being overstressed or all of that, depression, they can all factor back in.
Absolutely.
And kind of manifest in those physical senses.
So if you don't look at the whole picture, how are you going to accurately treat it? So that's what I get passionate about. Is I see these people coming in and they're told, oh, everything's okay, but clearly it's not.
A couple of other symptoms we'll just run through as well. Dry skin and hair. How does that play into?
Well, circulation. Circulation. Because it's the thyroid is a heat thing, it'll dry the skin out. So thermogenesis again. It'll also won't respond well to moisturise, so it gets very dry. And sometimes you'll find that people will actually lose some of their hair. Fortunately, I've still got plenty.
Well, we
of hair.
don't have that problem.
Yeah,
so we're
that's
okay.
right. We're okay.
You and I are
there.
pretty good.
But I do find a lot, particularly women, with hair loss. That's very scary. So for women to have hair. So that's another one. And the other thing I find is they'll have cold hands, cold feet. So again, circulation. So they'll find that the tips of the hand, the end part, they'll have really cold feet. That just doesn't seem to get warm. And
so that's a very broad-ranging lot of symptoms
and
there.
There's probably more symptoms there as well. Like another one is it can be pins and needles as well. So they'll find that's pins and needles. Cholesterol can be raised as well.
And good morning to Kerry. You've got a question for David today.
I surely have.
Hey, Kerry, how are you?
Look, I'm not real good. I've got this viral thing going around. But everything you've said is my son, but he's 27.
Mm-hmm.
He's also been tested and found out that he's got very low testosterone levels.
Sure, yep.
He's waiting to see a specialist, but in the meantime, his memory loss is massive.
Yep. And I suppose you're finding his lethargy would be rather low with that low testosterone.
Yeah,
yep.
He can't go to work some
definitely
days.
needs to get that looked at with testosterone, because that won't make his energy levels very satisfactory at all. Yeah.
Right, and low muscle tone and all this sort of stuff.
Yep. All that will be related. Yeah. So it's like that. That's probably my first area of point of call, is to get that rectified first, because I think that particularly with him, because that will have a contributing factor with so many things.
Right.
And the other question, I know this is probably just whether you know or not, but how's his stress? Where's his stress levels?
He's pretty well stressed at the moment.
Yeah.
Because he sort of doesn't know if he's going crazy or he's not going crazy, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. I can identify, where he's coming from, because that's, you've got to look at that side, because that's the driver. That's the reason for the initial reason for him getting that problem. Okay.
Right.
So he's.
So we've got to get that counteracted first before we can get the thyroid.
Yeah, so that's what he can
properly.
be doing. That's what he can start to be doing now. Is looking at sort of maybe some magnesium, B vitamins, zinc as a core supporting role. Right.
Yeah.
And there's some very good products out there that are quite good in that. And and that will give him a leeway up to when he's doing before he gets the testosterone fully dealt with, because that's not going to help his energy either. So.
Oh, okay. And so even though he's not gaining weight, he's the opposite.
Yeah,
so
it still will be the same. Yeah.
It's still a hypo.
That's right.
Thyroid.
Yep.
Okay.
So it can be swing either. Yep. Magnesium.
B.
Yep. Magnesium, B vitamins, a good quality B vitamin, and zinc.
And zinc.
Yeah, because you need to have zinc to be able to convert the hormone T4 to T3. Okay.
T4 to T3.
You need to have adequate amount of zinc and selenium, and you get selenium from, strangely as it may seem, Brazil nuts.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So 4 Brazil nuts is going to do it.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, I know it's very simple, but I mean these sort of things. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. Yeah, you don't have to. You just have to do the basic, and things like pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and Brazil nuts. Perfect.
I love the sound of that, David. 4 Brazil nuts a day. Thank you very much, Kerry.
Unreal. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your call. Hopefully we've got some nice advice there for you. I'm getting a little bit hungry now, David. Thank you for that. Haven't had breakfast yet. Look, there are a few other symptoms of the underactive thyroid, a few which I wouldn't have thought would have been symptoms of anything major. What about the thinning of the outside of the eyebrow? That's a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah, that's I don't actually see that very often, but it actually, you'll start to sort of see the outer brow of the eyebrow disappearing. And that can be a sure sign of hypothyroidism.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and the other thing I see is there'll be sluggish bowel. The bowels will be a bit sluggish as well. So there'll be difficulty in that. So it's like the whole body is literally slowing down. Hence the name hypothyroidism. So everything sort of is slowing down, metabolism slows down, weight gain, lethargy, fatigue. So you get the idea of what's sort of happening here is...
I kind of get that there is a bit of a theme there. I reckon this next symptom is, in a way, your body countering that completely. And would I be right when I say the craving of carbohydrates and sugary foods? The body's saying, I'm lethargic, I've got nothing.
Yep.
Give me something, give me something.
That's exactly right. You're spot on there. And it's just like saying, I need to get energy for the brain. So this is the carbs feed the brain. And so because everything's slowing down, but the brain you still need to give it the energy, and the energy source for the brain is sugar.
For sure.
So that's why you get that carbs. But of course, you don't need to have that much because everything's slowing down. So that just contributes to the weight gain.
Yeah.
So they've got this never-ending spiral sort of situation where you just... things are just contributing to the same thing.
It's such a vicious cycle, isn't
it? Oh, it's huge.
Look, they are some of the symptoms. We're going to come back in a moment and have a look at how we can sort of turn it around and maybe come on the other side of that. Of course, Peter Mullen taking a couple of weeks R&R. We've got David Martson this week. David, looking very sharp in your dress today, I might add, mate.
I've got to keep up the appearance of... the better looking one of the team.
Are you suggesting that's Peter? He can't hear you, so there's no point in being nice to him.
Okay, well, Pete's he's the younger of the two of us. Yeah,
he'll be watching the podcast later today. He will.
No.
Good afternoon, Margaret. You've got some thyroid questions for David this afternoon.
How are you, Margaret?
Hello, David. I've had thyroid problems for over 30 years now, and I'm on thyroxine every day.
Yep. How many milligrams?
I have 100 3 times a week and 150 3 times a week. Four times a week, sorry.
Yep. And how does your when they do your thyroid testing, when they test for your thyroid, can you remember whether they just test for T4 or do they do the whole complete range of testing?
I'm not sure what they test for.
Well, I'm going to explain something to you. The thyroxine is, as you know, is synthetic, all right? Yes. And we actually only, when we take it, we actually only absorb about 40% of that. Yeah. So that's why they've got to keep upping the range, upping the dosage of it. And it's not saying that it's not effective, but remember, it's only one part of that whole picture.
Yes.
Okay, it's thyroxine. So it's only T4.
With it as well.
Yeah, it's T4. So you need to have all these other nutrients to be able to make the thyroid to work. Things like, for example, zinc and selenium, which I mentioned earlier.
I heard you mention those.
Yep. So you've got to have adequate amount of that to get the conversion of T4 to T3, which occurs in the liver, right? Yep. Mainly in the liver. So if you don't have those adequate amount of nutrients to convert it, you may not be actually getting the full benefit of it. Hence why you're still missing some of those key energy factors and stuff like that. Okay.
Very lethargic at times.
Yeah, that's right. Now the other thing is that remember too that you've got to get the actual active part of the thyroid, which is the thyroid hormone, which is called T3. Okay. Now it requires certain things as well. It requires you need to have adequate amount of selenium, zinc, B vitamins, all those sort of things as well. So you need to have those as well. And then actually get it in the cell, you have to have iron and vitamin D. So do you know where your iron and vitamin D levels are?
My vitamin D level's usually down.
Yeah. So there's one part of your question is that it may not be high. It needs to be over 100.
Yeah, well, I haven't had it checked for a while, so
yeah.
So I'm due to have a full checkup at the moment. I'm going on. My doctor's putting me on a health plan in September, beginning of September.
Yep.
So, and I've also
It's understanding about all those other things that need to be right as well. So what I would suggest for you is starting with, get your check. Make sure you check your vitamin D, your iron. Okay, I would definitely get iron studies checked to make sure that's okay. And then I would also look at maybe adding, like I was saying earlier, some zinc, selenium, so Brazil nuts, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, just to start to sort of get some nutrition back in there.
And again, David, of course, it's about keeping that whole picture in there, looking after the whole lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Margaret. Some great advice for you there.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Now, look, there are some things we can do if you think that if some of these boxes are being ticked for you this afternoon. What's our first step, David?
Okay, so generally what I say is you've got to get a complete thyroid panel done. That's number one. And that includes TSH, T4, T3. And if you suspect there could be some autoimmune, I'd get some antibodies done as well. So that's more Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. So that's a different thyroid. That's another avenue
It's
to
another
the
whole program.
That's another whole program. I can talk a month on that one. So I'd definitely get those. I'd get iron done. Like I was saying to Margaret, you've got to have adequate amount of iron to get the actual active part of the thyroid hormone into the cell. So you need to know iron is very energy. It gives you good energy as well, and vitamin D. So, they're just some basic panels. I also, when somebody comes in to me to say, they're a bit tired, fatigued, I will also do what we call a basal temperature test.
And just very quickly, can you run through what that
So
test
a basal temperature test, because the thyroid is very much metabolic and heat based sort of organ, we can do a simple temperature test. And what you do is every morning, before you actually get up in the morning, you actually put a thermometer under your armpit before your feet actually get out of the bed. And then you make a note of that temperature, and you do that for 5 days complete at the same time in the mornings.
Sometimes the low-tech answers are the one, aren't they?
And then what you'll do is you'll measure that. So if it'll be 35.4 or something like that, a bit lower than what it should be. So it sort of be 36.5 is our normal, around about our normal temperature. But if it's running lower, then you can say, there's definitely some thyroid issues. That's when we go and get some thyroid testing.
Wonderful. Some great advice there, and such a wide-ranging topic. We could probably talk on this all afternoon.
I know.
David, the next talk's coming up from Mullen Health, 12th and 18th the 12th of September. We've got the Healthy Habits Challenge info
I'm
session.
so looking forward to the Healthy Habits. It's going to be absolutely amazing. It's 2 weeks. What I love about it is I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat. It's all planned out for you, and I don't have the time to even plan anything.
Well,
so
back to what we started at the program, brain fog again.
Absolutely,
you just go,
yeah.
the program.
So how good is that? You have 2 weeks of food already. Know what you're going to have every night. You can plan your shopping. It's all healthy, gluten-free, dairy-free, coffee, alcohol-free. So for 2 weeks only. I think I could survive.
Yes, that was alcohol-free, not free alcohol.
That's
I know
right.
You probably read it that way.
David,
thank you so much. I know there's a lot more we could talk about, but thank you for taking the place of Peter this week and classing up the joint as well.
Yeah, I'd like to. Hopefully, I'll get asked back. That'll be really good.
I'm sure you will. Of course, next week, Health and Wellbeing will back with Lisa, and she'll be talking about dealing with hay fever naturally. I'm looking forward to that because I get hay fever, David, about 18 months of the year.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Well, Lisa's got some great things there to talk about that.
I've got my questions already. Thank you, David Martson, for filling for Peter Mullen. It is Health and Wellbeing back next Tuesday after midday at 2NURFM 103.7.